Alright, welcome back to another modern video. Today I've got a list that Doomwake played and got a 5-0 with. It's a pretty exciting list. Got a pretty standard Asmo shell, but then incorporating a couple new Bloomburrow cards. One is Bonecash Overseer, which lets you tap to draw a card, but only if you've sacrificed a food or had 3 cards leave your graveyard this turn. And obviously, you can trigger that pretty easily in this deck. And then you've also got Rottenmouth Viper, excuse me, where the cost is reduced for each permanent that you sacrifice when you cast it, and then when you attack with it, it gets a blight counter, and then for each blight counter on it, your opponent loses 4 life unless they discard a card or sacrifice a permanent. And this stack, so for every turn you get to attack with it, it just gets stronger and stronger. Well, hopefully being a 1-mana 6/6 just as a base level. So, yeah, I mean, it's a very sweet list. I'm excited to give it a try. All right, before we get into the games, I just want to do a quick call to action here. I know every YouTuber does this, but it really does help with the engagement and getting noticed by the algorithm. So if you want to support me, please call your mom, tell her that you love her, have a chat about what's going on in your life, with your days, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Your mom just wants to hear from you, and I really appreciate it. So let's get into the games. All right, starting off round 1. I think this is a keep. Get to try out the Overseer, and then also got Asmo. I think I'm going to start with a cookbook. Then next turn I can go Overseer into Asmo. See what my opponent grabs here. Commercial district, so looks like it might be a storm deck. Maybe Gruul Energy, something like that. Okay, so I got a Dragon's Rage Channeler. I think in this case I probably want to just make a food now. And then this will let me Asmo right away if I need to. Yeah, especially just drawing into more lands. It'll be nice to get the Asmo activation up. So I can grab another cookbook from the deck, cast the Overseer. I think I am going to probably leave the Channeler for now, just until I can get some more information. I don't want to kill this and then have them go like Slick Shot Show Off or something like that. But yeah, we'll see what they do. If they can find Delirium and then start attacking me, then maybe I would snap it off on the Channeler. Opponent is tanking a bit on this Surveil. Must be a somewhat of a tough decision here. Would be really nice if I don't have to use this Asmo activation, because then next turn I can use it to kill something and then draw a card off of this. Interesting that they have Shatterskull Smashing. I guess it's just a free DFC. Okay, Valakut Awakening as well. Okay, so it is a storm deck. Glad that I still have the Asmo activation up. Start with the Malevolent Rumble. Okay, so I found Shadow Spear, Haywire Might, Viper. It's kind of interesting here. It's going to be tough to cast the Viper this turn, but I think I'm going to take it. Why don't I do this? I will make them make the Ral die, since that's just going to happen no matter what. And then I'm going to play Swamp. Then I can, let's see, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4 with the food. Trying to see how easy it would be to cast this Viper this turn. So definitely I can make a food here. And I mean, that's, if I sacrifice everything, that's enough to cast it. Honestly, don't hate that, especially with another Asmo in hand. Yeah, you know what? It's got the new card. Let's get into play. So cast, then pay this. Oh, this is actually something I didn't realize just from reading it, that it enters battlefield or attacks. So it's guaranteed if it gets one trigger off, and then when it attacks, it's actually 2 triggers. Always. That's even better than I thought it was. I was impressed with, oh, when it attacks, you get 1 trigger automatically, but it's even better than that. All right, so let's see how much they can do here. They only got 3 cards in hand, but you know, this storm deck can kind of win out of nowhere. All right. Got 5 mana. Underworld Breach. Kind of interesting. So far, they don't have any card draw spells. Hopefully they're not going to just immediately cast one here after I say that, but maybe they're just planning on going for Ral Flip and then Ultimate. And then they do get to dig with this Underworld Breach plus Channeler. They do get to dig a bit, because if they find a draw spell or something, they can surveil that into the graveyard and then cast it. So looks like they'll have two more spells that they can cast. Milling a lot of lands into the graveyard. Okay, they won the flip, but decided not to flip Ral. It wouldn't be able to ultimate yet. I wonder if they just have a Grape Shot in hand. That would be a bit sad, but it would make sense to go so deep. Okay, won the flip again. And deciding whether or not they want to flip. So with an additional way kind of for each instant sorcerer you've cast. So I think they're 2 or 1 spell short at this point, because they've cast Ral and Underworld Breach. So if they want to flip Ral, they need to, I think, cast the Ritual and win the flip again. So I guess let's hope that they don't. Opponent is considering their next play. I wonder if they're trying to decide whether it's worth it to go for the ritual here. But I feel like they kind of have to, right? Like next turn, I'll be able to attack with the Viper. And that's gonna settle. Okay, so they're settling for a Shatter Skull smashing to kill the Viper, rather than going big with the ritual. But they end up flipping Ral anyway, so I guess we just lose. I guess they ultimate Ral. They can't. Can't necessarily do everything, but yeah, I think with all these, they've got rituals, they've got Past in Flames. I think it's gonna be over here pretty soon. Cast another Ral. All right. So yeah, I think it's that's just gonna do it. And they would have to lose. I mean, they would have to lose 9 coin flips in a row, and they don't even need to cast 9 spells. They can already go Manamorphose, Wish, for a Grave Shot and kill me. So I'm just gonna pack it in here and then move on to the next game. All right, so I think against Storm, want Thoughtseizes, Endurance, and I could bring in Fatal Push. Oh, and Spell Bomb as well. So I think I'm gonna take out Shadow Spear. Just not that good. Then probably gonna trim down Cauldrons. I think that's more of a grindy type of card. Obviously this matchup is gonna be a lot more hectic than that, fast paced. Now the question is, I got 6 more cuts to make. I can honestly, I think I'll probably, I don't know. I was gonna say cutting Bowmasters, but I do feel like against the Chandler build, it's at least reasonable. Probably gonna cut the Overseers. Are also just a little bit too slow, I think. And then probably just gonna go down Grist and a couple Bowmasters. Run it like this. Still have the Asmo core, but just basically bringing in more hate cards. I'm gonna keep this. Have a Spell Bomb, got a Asmo. Seems pretty reasonable. So I'll be able to Goose on turn 1, then Cookbook plus Asmo turn 2. Seems pretty solid. Okay, I've got a second Asmo. That might be what I discard here to the Cookbook. And then I think I'm just gonna hold up the Asmo activation here. I don't think I'll. I think its chances are pretty low that I'll need Spellbomb here, especially since I can kill any creature that they play, and then I'll be able to get the Spellbomb down next turn. Kind of want to keep foods in play, obviously for Asmo, but then I've got the Viper, and I think it will be a good one. Okay, so they're on one land. Oh wow, and they're just the perfect draw. All right, well, I will accept that. Bowmaster, kill your channeler. I guess I think I'm just gonna go for a surveil land here. Still not really much of a reason to play out the cookbook or the spellbomb, so I'm okay with waiting. Opponent does find another land. Let's see what they can do with it. Doesn't look like much at this point. They maybe have a Ral and they can't play it because of Asmo. I'm gonna graveyard that. See if we can find. Okay, so got a Lava Spur Boots. Because it's not that great, but I will cast it. Let's see if they have a bolt or something. Having a braid. Okay. Well, there goes Asmo. I can't get this spell bomb down. That will be my combo defense for now. Depending on whether I draw anything next turn, I might just pop this spell bomb and get a redraw here. But we'll see. Looks like they might not have a third land, but definitely could still go off pretty easily, I think, if they have the right combination of cards in hand. They definitely got something, because they're in the tank about probably whether to go for it or not. And they do have a third land and a Ral. It's getting a little dicey. Okay, and then they got a Wish with a Ritual and Response. Okay, so this time they win the flip and choose to transform Ral. So they can just kill the Bowmasters. And then they set up for next turn with a Galvanic Relay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, they've got a lot of good stuff. Manamorphose, Ritual, Reckless Impulse. They still only have one card in hand, though. They do get to totally clear out my Bowmaster. Got a Overgrown Tomb. Well, I think I'm going to equip here. I can poke Ral a little bit, and then I think cast another cookbook. I think I'm just gonna hold this land. I think it's more likely that I'll want a food than my fourth land here. Okay, yeah, they gotta plus Ralph first before they can go off. Okay, and then they got a Past in Flames. I do have to cast this now, although they're going to be able to put a couple of cards in the graveyard off of that. They can go Manamorphose, Ritual. Oh, they just had a Ritual in hand. Alright, well, let's see what they get off this Reckless Impulse. Manamorphose, Valakut Awakening. Okay, that's pretty good. They can draw 2 more cards plus the Awakening. Really unfortunate that they got to kill my Bowmasters. Would have been pretty good against these Manamorphoses. There's a Ruby Medallion. Alright, well, that's everything they can cast off of their Galvanic Relay. Obviously, still got a ways to go. If they want to, they can Past in Flames this turn too. So probably just depend on what they draw off this Awakening. Since right now, I don't think their graveyard is too impressive. They'd be able to Reckless Impulse and then Manamorphose. Okay, so I think that should do it then. If they could wish for Grape Shot, then all they have to do is just flashback Past in Flames, and then they'll be able to Grape Shot for lethal. It's unfortunate, but this definitely feels like a kind of a tough matchup. The sideboard not really set up for Storm Hate, like, which I think is totally fair. Like, Storm has been gone off such a steep cliff since the beginning of MH3, but I think if you were planning for it, you'd obviously be playing Davis Spheres or some other Storm Hate cards, that kind of thing. But with that, I don't think that this is really a matchup you necessarily need to worry about too much. And I think we saw game 1. We were pretty close to being able to win anyway. If they hadn't had if they had lost that last coin flip, rather than hitting being able to flip the route and then ultimate, they were close to dead. And then you do have Thought Seizes and graveyard hate to fight against them, but yeah, it's a matchup that I think probably gonna have a long history of not respecting Storm and then losing to it, and then respecting Storm and then never seeing it, and then he just hitting that cycle that Dredge is so famous for. So, all right, well, I'm gonna pack this one in. My opponent is stacking their grape shots, and we'll move on to the next game. All right, we are back with round 2. This is kind of an interesting hand. Bowmasters could be really sweet, but these Overseers are really not going to do anything anytime soon. And Lava Spur Boots is also not really great right now, so I'm just going to mulligan this, I think. Wow, okay, so down to a 1-lander. I think I got to mull this too, unfortunately. Okay, I mean, this one's a keep. I think I'm going to go for... Let's see, I could go for probably Gilded Goose to the bottom and then a land. Might be... I could see a case for putting the Viper to the bottom because it's pretty expensive and a little ways away from actually being able to cast it. But, you know, it's a new card. I kind of want to try it out. And, you know, it is like an actual payoff for what the rest of the hand is doing. So we're getting close. I mean, we are getting close. Like if next turn Bowmasters, the turn after I'll have 1/2 sacrifice Goose plus food plus army. So I could either sacrifice everything to cast a Viper, or if I draw land, sacrifice everything except for Bowmasters. I mean, it's not bad. Okay, so we got an Overseer. It's not a bad pickup. I guess the question is, I think I'm just waiting on this Goose since I want to use the food for the Viper. Don't necessarily need to use it right now for the Overseer. Let's see if my opponent goes for a Consider or something. Okay, just a Surveil land. Makes sense. Looks like maybe up against the Dimir Murktide list. Opponent gets a Surveil. Hopefully Bowmasters can be pretty good here. Can definitely be very annoying against the Murktide deck. Just a land and pass. I almost want to just make a food with Gilded Goose. Because I think if they counter my Bowmaster, what am I doing next turn? I guess I kind of do need to do that. Then next turn I can play the Overseer. Okay, so I have a Spell Snare. Pretty hard to imagine that they weren't going to be able to leave that up moving forward. Okay, yeah, Urza Saga is really good here. Probably just make a food with the Gilded Goose. And then next turn, I can sacrifice the foods plus Gilded Goose to cast Viper. Or I can just make Saga tokens if they leave up mana. My Fatal Push on the Goose. Alright, well. Looks like I'm making a food. No respect for the Overseer. Though I guess they're probably thinking that without the Goose, it's going to be hard to trigger Overseer, which is true. That's definitely just true. But I can trigger it next turn with the Viper. Okay, so they have a Psychic Frog. I think This is probably going to be the turn to go for a Viper if I can. Drew another Viper. That's a bit rough. So now if I want to cast it, I have to sacrifice the Overseer. I mean, I think I kind of have to do it. It's not... It's pretty bad, I think, but... I mean, I think the window to cast the Viper is going to be much worse after this turn, since now that they have a Psychic Frog, there's not really much of an incentive for them to not hold up mana. So we got the Viper. I think the only thing that they could answer would be Subtlety. Okay. Viper does resolve, and it's not the easiest thing to kill either. I mean, could definitely have a Shield's Edict or go for the throat or something. But like, they surveilled a Fatal Push to the graveyard. Obviously, it doesn't work against a 6 mana card. Yeah, I'm not gonna block. I think the fact that they're attacking there means that they're willing to discard their hand to get rid of this Viper, and I prefer to keep it around if I can. They're going for a Murktide? Okay, Archmage's Charm. Just to draw 2. Fair enough. I guess with the second Viper I can't cast. Looks like a Saga Time. I could get Lava Spur Boots here. It's either Lava Spur Boots or Cookbook. But I guess I guess I'll just go for the boots. See if they have another Fatal Push in hand. They don't, so I get to get in for 9 here. And I trigger the Viper twice. Oh no. Oh, okay. I thought they were about to Fatal Push into the ward. But they did not. They successfully played around it. Alright, so just discards a couple lands. Matters a lot more than it normally would because of Psychic Frog. Just discarding a couple Preordains. Kind of interesting. And a counter... Okay, they're just discarding their whole hand, I guess? Oh, and then conceding. Interesting. Okay, I guess they must just have not had an answer to the Viper? Or they're assuming that... Yeah, I guess because if they just don't have an answer in their deck... Personally, I would have probably preordained a little bit, assuming that there is at least one answer in the deck. But if they don't have an answer, then the next Viper attack is lethal no matter what, so I guess we'll take the win. We're going to bring in Fatal Push. Then I could bring in... Force of Despair is honestly not terrible against them because they're often kind of waiting for one turn to deploy their threats. But at the same time, it's not amazing, I'm going to trim a Haywire Might. Then I can probably trim a Shadow Spear as well. So I guess it is kind of interesting. I could bring in thought seizes or endurances. Um, but honestly, I think the deck is already pretty grindy. Like, I don't think I really need to be fighting them on that front necessarily. Okay. I mean, the hand's a bit awkward, but got Malevolent Rumble to find something good, and then Saga is just a very good card in these type of grindy matchups. So not unhappy to see that. Getting Overseer down. Looks like they got something here. No Surveil Land, just a Fatal Push. Fair enough. I mean, honestly, pretty happy for that exchange with the way my hand is looking. Another Saga. Okay, I'm just gonna go Saga here and then go for a Rumble. I'm probably gonna be trying to make as many constructs as I can this game. But it just goes for a Spell Snare. Fair enough. Um, not super unhappy to get that out of their hand. Next turn, probably it's probably just gonna go like next turn make a construct, turn after make a construct plus cookbook, just change sagas. Like, hopefully they don't have a Psychic Frog or a Murktide, but okay, it looks like they don't. So in that case, just gonna force them to hold up mana when I am just gonna be using my lands. I'm gonna play Takenuma here rather than Catacombs because I think there's a higher likelihood that I'll want a Surveil land than I will actually want Takenuma. Could end up being wrong, but um, that's kind of my line of thinking. Don't think I'm gonna block. I don't think I'm gonna block here. It's just I don't have too many ways to actually like draw cards other than Overseer. So I think I'd rather try to get this construct to grow, and it's gonna be big very fast. So I'm gonna be stonewalling these Bowmasters pretty quick. And I think I'm just gonna get the boots. I've already got 2 cookbooks, so there's no real reason to grab another one. And I mean, the clock goes way faster with the boots. And if they're waiting with a fatal push, they have to push this one, which normally they would just get to push the one that's not summoning sick, and then not even have to take any damage. I'm gonna go attack. I mean, I think I win the race versus this Bowmaster, so I'm happy to do that if that's what my opponent is wishing. All right, fair enough. Get in. I get to keep making constructs. And I can put boots on them again. I mean, my opponent is dead next turn if they don't have anything. Obviously they can block, but hopefully they just have like 2 counter spells in hand over there, and I can just totally ignore it. And just 2 sagas, 4 constructs, GG. So far I've actually cast only like 2 spells this game, and they got immediately answered with a Fatal Push and a Spell Snare, and I'm just winning. Like, it's just, the sagas are just so nuts. All right, get a cookbook into play. Move the boots over. Okay, so they find another Fatal Push. All right, I'm gonna go for, I think, a forest here. Get a Gilded Goose down. Okay, yeah, they do. Looks like they have at least 1 counterspell in their hand, and they're just deciding that they just they just need to use it on anything, which is fair. Opponent double blocks. All right, well, I've got 2 potentially lethal threats. What does my opponent have? All right. I mean, three Fatal Pushes versus 2 Sagas. Sagas wins. All right, on to the next. All right, we are back for round 3. And this is a bit of a weird hand. But honestly, I might keep it. I do have a Surveil land. I'm on the draw and a Surveil land to find the second land. Plus these Gilded Gooses. I mean, Gilded Geese, I should say. I mean, we'll see. Might be a mistake, but do also have this Daredevil plus Asmo, which is really nice. Definitely don't need a third Asmo. Interesting. Maybe is this another Psychic Frog deck? It kind of looks like it. And there is the frog. Yeah, that's gonna be a tough one to beat at this point, since I'm stumbling a little bit. My opponent has turn 2 frog, which is kind of their best start. Really need this goose in order to have any shot here. Interesting. So I could cast a Bowmasters, or I could cast another Gilded Goose, and then try to get up to 3 mana. I guess I'm probably just gonna hold up Bowmasters. I can just discard a Daredevil, which is basically free. And then hopefully I can use the Bowmasters to slow down the frog a little bit. Dealing a little bit of damage, maybe blocking with the army, that kind of thing. Opponent decides to drown in the lock my bird, which I will have to Bowmaster in response to that. All right, we'll see what their follow up is. They got their own bowmasters to kill my bowmasters. Yeah, this is looking. This one might be an L here. Don't know if I can keep up with that, especially if I never draw a second land. Just out here casting a Gilded Goose on turn 4. Not a great, not a great start to this match. I think this definitely got a little way, but I think with a second land, I think this hand would have been very like totally reasonable. But definitely hard to beat the Dimir deck when they got turn 2 Psychic Frog also. All right, they're going in on the frog. Looks like a Murktide coming down. Yeah, okay. All right, well, okay, third land. I guess I can Grist kill the Murktide. It's something. It keeps me alive at least. But I mean, they still have the Psychic Frog, like, and they're gonna be able to kill the Grist. Which means I don't think there's really any way for me to get out of this, to be honest. But we'll give it at least one more draw step, see how it goes. Okay. Malevolent Rumble. I'm assuming my opponent just has to have like at least 2 to 3 counter spells over there. They've drawn so many cards this game. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna pack it in. I'm going down to. I don't think my opponent can. Oh yeah, my opponent actually does have lethal if they wanted to go for it. Don't know if they would have, but either way, was not going to be coming back from that one. All right, I think I'm going to run it like this. Same way I boarded in the last match. I do get to be on the play this time. Hopefully be able to be more proactive. I mean, there's only so much you can do on one land, but hopefully this game we're blessed with a better mana curve. I mean, based on the first matchup we played, it seems like Dimir should be a pretty solid matchup. I mean, just Saga and Bowmasters alone are pretty strong against Dimir, and then you also just do get to play a bunch of grindy cards like Overseer, Asmo, Cauldron Grist. Like these are all cards that are built to kind of win the long game. And when you can compete like toe to toe with Murktide on that, they kind of are best kind of in the mid game. Honestly, like they're going for basically they're setting up on turns 1 to 3, and then turns 4 through 7 is where they really like put the game away. And so you're kind of just like, okay, well, if I can get out early and then keep the pressure up and also grind out harder than you, then you're able to win against them. But that's easier said than done for sure. When they've got that many answers, it's tough to really be able to trust that your game plan is going to go as well as you might think, but you know, I think this deck is reasonably well set up to do that. All right, my opponent has submitted a deck. We'll be on the play. All right, and then this hand looks great. I can get a goose down, get a cookbook down, Asmo, and I'll be moving quickly towards being able to cast this Viper as well. I'd love to see that. See what my opponent has. It might be tough for them to interact with this on turn 1 for them. And I think they would kind of need Spell Pierce is the only way. I guess obviously Force or Subtlety can interact with everything, but... Oh, and picked up a Daredevil? That's really good. Okay, my opponent has F6'd, so this is for sure resolving. I get to grab a cookbook. Oops. I want to make a food. I want to sacrifice a food. Get this cookbook down. Start making foods like that. All right. I mean, next turn I can just cast a Viper. Like this start is actually insane. I mean, if they just pass with 2 mana up, then I can just make some foods and make a giant Saga token. And if they tap out, then I'll just play Viper. Not to mention I have Asmo with activations on deck. Yeah, I mean, since my opponent just has 2 mana up, like, I don't really want to cast the Viper into it necessarily. So I'm just going to make a Saga token. They have a Bowmasters. Looks like they might. But I'll just pass. No reason to do anything now. Okay, so they got a long goodbye. Fair enough. I don't think there's anything to do right now. This construct is going to be huge, though. Going to be a 6/6. Could be attacking as an 8/8. Or actually, could be attacking for as a... It's even bigger than that. All right, and make a construct. I mean, they missed a land drop. Okay, they're just scooping. Yeah, I think that's gonna be tough for them. They're not gonna be able to answer everything with just 2 lands, and even on its own, these Saga tokens are just gonna be lethal super fast. So, all right, fair enough. Glad to pick up the win there. I am contemplating bringing in Thoughtseizes, though. I could see potentially putting them over Cauldrons. I think they're like good, but not great, I think. Which I guess is kind of also true for Thoughtseize. So I think I will trim a couple Rumbles for a couple Thoughtseizes. I think Thoughtseizes are gonna be better on the draw anyway, and Rumbles are getting worse on the draw, so that's kind of what I'm thinking here. I mean, yeah, this is a good hand. It's got... I can go turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Saga, start pumping out some tokens, and then Eventually, the saga will get a cookbook that I can use to cast Asmo. Um, do I Thoughtseize or do I Overseer here? I think I'm gonna Thoughtseize. I just don't really want them to cast Psychic Frog if they have it. Okay, consign to memory counterspell. That's a very interesting hand. Um, interesting, yeah. I mean, I guess I'm just taking the Murktide, right? Like, that's going to be the hardest card for me to deal with, and the rest of the things are just going to try to go one for one. And I guess they can consign to memory um, some of these saga triggers. See if they counter this. I mean, if they're using a full card to answer one of my lands, I'm pretty okay with that. I think I'm just gonna go for a Cauldron here too. Kind of just as like a bait spell. Yeah, they use a consign to memory on it. Like, I'm pretty okay with that. I'm curious to see if they'll use a consign to memory on this saga trigger here. Okay, so there looks like they're just waiting to counter the search trigger. I think it's fair. In the meantime, I'm just going to make a construct. Obviously, they have counterspell up, so I don't really feel like I gain too much by casting a spell when I can just get a threat into play like that. So I got one mystery card. Make a construct. Drawing a land is pretty good here. I'm gonna make a construct again. See if they consign that. They do. Okay. And then do I cast Cookbook? I think I'll just cast the Overseer. See if they snap off the counterspell on this. Okay. They let it go. Want to be able to try and bait out the counterspell with something other than the Cookbook if I can. Yeah, so I'm going to start with the Lava Spur Boots, see if this draws the counterspell. It does not. Kind of interesting. Here, I think I'm going to go for the Goose. It's kind of an interesting situation, but I can put the boots on the Goose to give it haste to cast something else and then also get to draw off of the Overseer. But first I'm going to attack with these constructs. See what my opponent has in store there. Okay, it's like maybe just a Fatal Push. Okay. See if they want to use another Fatal Push here. I mean, this game has been another showing of why Saga is so good in this matchup. It's like Okay, yeah, just a long goodbye. Sure. Um, so they just have a counterspell left in hand. I guess I'll. Well, let's see. Yeah, I think I'm gonna cast the Overseer here. I think there's a decent chance my opponent counterspells this. But then next turn my plan will be Cookbook, discard what I drew for turn, and then cast Asmo. So they draw Preordain. That's probably their best draw. I mean, other than obviously just finding their best possible card would be better, but ooh, a Grist. Do I really want to discard a Grist? Probably not. I mean, I think it's for sure getting countered. But you know, I'm kind of okay with that. Opponent just takes the full 4 damage there. And okay, so they put a subtlety into play. Do I want to redraw Grist? That's an interesting question. I think probably not. Interesting. I feel like it's kind of interesting for my opponent to not block with the subtlety, but all right. I mean, I think I gotta go for this. I think this is probably what's gonna finally get the counterspell out of my opponent's hand. Yeah. So they're down to just a Surveil land. So let's see here. Do I want to trade off my construct for a subtlety? I don't think so. I think what I'm going to do is swap this over, and then I can make a food with the goose. And then I'll be able to, next turn, I can just straight up, I can sacrifice the goose, or sacrifice the food and drop with the Overseer. Or I can just make the construct into a 4 toughness attacker that the subtlety can't block. Opponent is tanking on this Surveil and puts the card on top. So we'll see what that ends up being. I wonder if it's like a counterspell or something. Maybe it's a removal spell. Looks like they're contemplating using something here. Okay, they're trying to lock the Overseer. That's interesting. Wonder why they wouldn't go for the construct here. Well, either way, I'm gonna Malevolent Rumble. Oh, this is very interesting. Because I can grab a Viper, and then next turn I'd be able to cast it, or I could grab a Bowmaster. And obviously that would just be good. I mean, I think I'm probably just taking Viper here, because I think if I take I guess I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could sack the boots. I think kind of no matter what, I'm making a food here so that I can attack for 5. So I think it makes sense. I can get Viper, since Viper also just gets better with me doing this. All right, my opponent scoops it up. Seems like a pretty good matchup. I think if you're trying to beat this deck, I would definitely consider playing this. Like the Urza Saga, that game, it made two constructs, which one of them got killed. Then they consigned to memory the trigger. So that's a full card for the trigger off of one land, and then the second construct just killed them. So at the bare minimum, I would say it's a it's a 3-for-1, but they chump blocked with a subtlety and then died to the construct. So it kind of an infinite for one at that point. But we got the win, so we'll move on to round 4. All right, we are on the draw for round 4 against a Gigantha user. Looks like probably energy, like Boros energy. That's usually who you see playing Gigantha, and this hand is pretty good. I mean, I can turn to Asmo with an activation up. My opponent is mulliganing to 6, so off to a pretty good start. Good hand. My opponent is mulliganing. All right, my opponent starts off with the Marsh Flash, so maybe so it looks like probably Mardu energy then. And a Guide of Souls. Pick up a Soul Cauldron. That's kind of a nice one to have for a potential Flage later on. See what my opponent has. Just Ocelot Pride. If they also have Thoughtseize, that would be bad. Okay, Fatal Push on the Goose is totally fine. The Goose did his job, making a food. All right, let's get this cookbook going. I'm getting Asmo down. Grab another cookbook. And then do I just snap off the Asmo activation on the Guide of Souls? I think it's worth waiting, probably. I'm most likely doing on the Guide of Souls since Asmo can block the Ocelot Pride, but I don't think there's too much of a reason to wait. Could get punished by a Bowmasters in response. They'll get a couple more energy off of that, but hopefully if that happens, I would cut them off of their energy use. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do this now then. Since we know that they're about to get another energy, I don't really want them to have that. Okay, so I got a Marionette Apprentice. It's pretty good. Really good in this matchup. Don't think they can attack. Yeah. Ooh, a Viper is pretty sweet here. I think probably gonna go for it next turn. That seems, I think, the most reasonable to me. And then this turn, I think I'm gonna just go for the Rumble. So I'll start with that. All right. Pretty happy to pick up a Bowmaster here. I'm gonna play another cookbook. Get couple of foods. Then I can kind of chill for now. I mean, Asmo, it's just as a 3/3, is kind of stumping their board, and then I can obviously kill anything with a activation. Is this a burn spell for the Asmo? Opponent is tanking on this red mana. Okay, Goblin Bombardment. Interesting. So I guess the question is, do I want to sacrifice the food to kill the apprentice? I think most likely yes. Don't really want to just take an extra 3 damage here. So let's go for that. And then they can sacrifice 3 creatures to kill my Asmo. Which, you know, I'm I'm pretty happy with. Okay, and then the other just attack with the Pride. I mean, I'm gonna block here and then sacrifice so that they don't gain life this turn. That way they have to sacrifice either the Raptor or the Pride to finish Asmo off. If they gained life, then they would just make a cat and then sacrifice that. Looks like I'm probably not casting Viper this turn. I would have to sacrifice kind of a lot to kill that, or to get that down. Not sure that's entirely worth it. But I can kill this Ocelot Pride. And I can set up for a pretty easy 2 mana or 1 mana Viper next turn. Yeah, so I guess I can't actually do it because I don't end up with anything after the Bowmasters. But my opponent only has 2 cards in hand, and I've got a lot going on. Okay, so they have a Johnny. A Johnny is pretty good against Viper. Although I guess they already have a way to flip it with, or flip a Johnny with the bombardment, so yeah. They'll get to kind of go off a little bit here. All right, let's get some foods in play. All right. Let's see what I draw here. Just another land. Land is not great. But I guess I'm just making a few more foods, casting Viper for 2 mana, and then I can play a Soul Cauldron. Yeah. I mean, it should be reasonably difficult for them to deal with this. My opponent just takes 4 life, makes sense. Get the Cauldron down. I can get a Surveil Land end of turn too. Help me find something to deal with my opponent's board here. Another Marionette Apprentice. So they might be able to just kill my Viper here. With the Ajani dealing 4, plus they sacrifice 2 creatures. I can Soul Cauldron to do something in response. Yeah, might as well get in with a cat token. It's probably going to be sacrificing everything other than the Apprentice. But, I mean, Viper is soaking up a lot of damage here, which is good. All right, so in response, I will exile my Asmo. I mean, I can next turn I can play a Daredevil and then put a counter on it so it gains Asmo's ability and then kill this Marionette Apprentice. Seems pretty good. Oh, they just don't sacrifice. I guess they can just do it. They don't have to do it in response. They can just do it whenever. Yeah, okay. So Viper is down. But my opponent is back down to 1 card in hand. Just a Johnny and the Apprentice. So let's get a Surveil in, see if I can find anything good here. Another Viper. Another Viper seems pretty good. I guess the question is, can I cast it to where I don't need to sacrifice both foods? I guess that would require sacrificing a cookbook. If I want to cast the Viper and then put a counter on it with Cauldron and kill the Apprentice, then I have to sacrifice a cookbook, which makes my future turns a lot worse. But it might be worth it. I guess I can start off by just doing that, doing this now. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna go for that line. So they have to sacrifice or discard or whatever. Just take another 4. So I'm taking the Gilded Goose as another activated ability. It's nice to have under Cauldron. And then I can kill this. So my opponent, I'm going down to 7. My opponent can make a cat, deal 1, sacrifice the cat to deal 2, put me to 5. They draw another Apprentice. Oh, that's brutal. I think that's just lethal, right? Yeah. Oh man. No way. They had another apprentice, the third one. All right. Well, sometimes they've got it. Sometimes they don't. Um, all right. So I definitely want Fatal Pushes, Force of Despairs. I think Haywire Might, Lava Spur Boots, Shadow Spear all seem good. Against Bowmasters, a Johnny, probably don't want the Overseer. And then I think the Viper also is probably just trim one. I think that I can definitely see a situation where they just have like 4 different cat tokens, and then, I'm sacrificing a bunch of stuff to get a Viper out, and like they just sacrifice a token and they don't care at all. Um, but yeah, brutal, brutal for them to have that third apprentice. I'm trying to think what else would have been enough to kill me there. Maybe an Ajani, but yeah, not too much. And I even had the turn after maybe being able to leave up just Kraken foods, but we're moving on to the next game, and I think this is a keep. Probably just go turn 1 Surveil Land, then turn 2 I can go Cookbook plus Fatal Push. Okay, I mean, I'll keep that. Kind of regret a little bit not just casting a Cookbook turn 1, but I think I'm still happy with the way this is turning out. So I can get an Asmo down this turn, but I could also wait till next turn and get Asmo down with an activation. And then, so the plan would be this turn, Cookbook, and then I can Fatal Push the Guide of Souls. I don't hate that. Kind of plays around it plays around a Galvanic Discharge. Because if they just kill my Asmo before I can go off too much, then then I'm just left with kind of 2 Cookbooks in play and nothing else. All right, let's see what they've got here. Got an Amp Raptor, so I'm gonna go ahead, kill the Guide of Souls. Hopefully they hit a 3-drop. They hit an Ajani. Okay. Well, luckily I can deal with that. Oh, Bowmaster is a good draw too. So get Saga. Cast Asmo. Grab a Cookbook. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this now. And I think I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to use my mana efficiently here, and Bowmaster is one of their creatures. And then next turn I can potentially Cookbook plus Grist or Cookbook plus Construct if I draw land. But either way, once I get 2 Cookbooks going, then I'll be able to just machine gun through their team. All right, well, there's a Fatal Push. At least I got 1 activation off. And I get to clean up a little bit here on the board. Kill the Raptor, block the Cat. Bowmaster's pretty good against X1s. They have a third land. They just have a 1-mana spell. Yeah, they got a Guide of Souls, and they do have a third land. Okay. Okay, no third land, but I think this is a pretty good time to get a Grist down. Then I can plus here. Actually, you milled a Daredevil, which is kind of nice. Assuming the opponent's probably going to go for a Surveil land here, and then we'll see what they can find. Yeah, I got an Elegant Parlor, an Ether Hub. Alright, 2 mana for an Apprentice. Makes sense. Okay, and then an Ajani on top of that. Yeah, that's pretty good cards. See if they go for an attack on Grist. Yeah, that makes sense. Stops me from minusing and killing something. Alright, well, going to be making a food. Hopefully I can find another Asmo. Another Daredevil is not what I was looking for here. I guess I'm just... Do I just make a construct here? Is that ever correct? I mean, yeah, I think I don't hate that. Just make a construct and then get Shadow Spear off of the Saga. So this guy's gonna get very big real quick. Get another insect, make another food. And I could pass after that. So Grist is for sure going down. And then we'll see what follow-ups my opponent has. It's going to be tough to attack through this Ajani, since they can just block with the cat and flip it. But we'll see. I mean, like if I draw, I guess I'm a mana short, but if I draw another Grist, I do also have, oh, they just have a Fatal Push. Yeah, that's pretty brutal. And then they've got Guide of Souls. They can attack pretty much for free with the cat if they want, yeah. Cat and Servo going at me. Well, I'll trade off with a cat. Or, sorry, with the Servo. Definitely not trading off with the cat, specifically. Opponent just has a land as the last card, so they can put Gigantha into hand. You can cast it next turn, too. Oh, the 4th Daredevil. That's a little brutal. I'm just casting the goose. And then making some food. Yeah, not a great situation to be in. Just the only thing I can do is make food, and I've only got 2 mana, so my top decks aren't great either. It's yeah. I mean, but on the flip side, if I draw an Asmo or a Cauldron, if I keep a card on top, that's not great. If I draw an Asmo or a Cauldron, I can just pretty much kill their entire board. Um, so I got something I can look forward to at least. But in the meantime, I am taking 5 here. Is this Gigantha? It is. And 5/5 is pretty good. Okay. Drew a Takanuma, which I guess gets me one mana closer to sacrificing a cookbook. That's my optimistic spin on things. I could put Shadow Spear on the insect. And I guess pass turn. So I'm probably going to be chump blocking Gigantha this turn. Another Guide of Souls. Okay, so maybe they'll just jump Gigantha. One unknown in hand. Let's see which creature they choose. They do choose the Gigantha. So I will definitely be blocking that with the goose. Like if I don't, then I'm probably just going to die. I could use the goose for a mana to sacrifice a food. Don't know that I necessarily need to do that. But I guess I do have a lot of food, so don't see much downside to doing this. I'm just instantly making 4 more after this, so hopefully I don't need 9 foods instead of 7. All right, got some foods back. Can we draw something? Another cookbook. It's not exact, so a lot of cookbooks and daredevils this game. I think I'm just dead. I mean, not technically, because I can go up to 13, and I'll live through one more attack, but yeah, it's not looking great though. And I guess I mean I might as well just attack with this insect. They just also have Aware for my Shadow Spirit. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Get the triple block. I will pass the turn back and prepare for death. Amped Raptor. I think this is. I think there's basically no hit where this isn't lethal. Okay, well that might be one. Because Spellbomb does not add energy or remove a creature, but I guess they can still jump a creature though, right? So, all right. That's game. Hopefully we can finish strong, get a treasure chest in round 5. All right, we are back with round 5. See if we can finish strong and get that treasure chest. I mean, I think this is a pretty keepable hand. Malevolent Rumble is doing some serious work here, making this keepable. I think Goose is going to go to the graveyard here. Don't really see the need for that one. Okay, so it looks like probably Nadu. And probably a pretty good Nadu hand at that if they're going turn 1 Saga. So let's see if we can find a way to stop them. Okay, well, a Daredevil and 2 lands is not really what I wanted to see here. I guess I'll take Takanuma. I can, next turn I can Grist minus sack the spawn to kill a creature. Wall of Roots. And a Bowmaster. I mean, I think I just have to probably Grist here. Feels kind of bad to kill just the Wall of Roots, but hopefully slow them down enough that I can stay in this game. If their plan was to Chord for Nadu, this might slow them down, might just give them one less creature to trigger off of. And yeah, it looks like a Nadu. One thing I think a lot of people have talked about all the things that makes Nadu kind of crazy. But I think one that's a little bit underrated is that you don't draw the cards. Like, you reveal the cards and lands go into play and then cards go into your hand. So Bowmasters or Shieldred don't actually answer Nadu because technically you're not drawing the cards, so there's nothing to do with it. So it's like it's just kind of crazy to me to have card draw hate and then it just gets around the card draw hate just so easily. Maybe that's the only way they could have done it, but personally, I feel like it would have made more sense if Bowmasters or Shieldred especially would do something against the deck. But anyway, hopefully it won't be around for too much longer. Here, I think definitely taking Asmo here. I'm next turn I can grab a cookbook off of this saga, and then I can yeah, I can go from there. And so at this point, I'm going to Bowmaster the Springheart Nantuko. It looked like they had a Nadu that they were just considering whether they wanted to play that or Nantuko first. and they ended up going with an Antuco, which turned out to be much better for us. But okay, so they kind of a bold move pacting here. They didn't hit a land. Okay. I guess I'll take it. I'm kind of stunned that that just happened, but a win's a win, I guess. I don't know why they were so aggressive with it. I feel like they could have easily waited a turn or two, right, to try and get another land, but I guess they felt like they needed to go right away. So, all right, well, that's game one. I'm definitely bringing in Fatal Push and Force of Despair. I could bring in Thought Seizes. Probably Pithing Needle is worth it as well. Soul Cauldron is actually kind of good in this matchup, I think, since I can steal like Wall of Roots or Delighted Halfling out of their graveyard. But I think Overseer is going to be pretty bad. And maybe Trim a Rumble, Trim a Viper, something like that. Ooh, a Force of Despair is nice. Kind of I feel like a little bit lackluster of a hand. But at the same time, I do like that there's a Force of Despair in it. And it does have Bowmaster, and then a couple of support pieces with Cookbook and Haywire Might. So, I've kept worse hands. Kept worse hands in this league, I think. So, I'm gonna get the Cookbook down, kind of hold back the Haywire Might so that they might be more inclined to play an artifact out into it. Alright, so turn 2 Delighted Halfling. I was going to say that they probably have Nadu, but I feel like they always have Nadu turn 3, so, or turn 2. But all right, so I guess the question is here I can play the Haywire Might. I can hold up Bowmasters. I think I'm gonna play Might here. This way, if they play a Shuko first, I can stop them from getting a trigger off of Nadu, and then so I can go like in response to Nadu, exile Shuko, and then Force of Despair. But it looks like they're just casting Nadu without that anyway. So I will cast a Force of Despair to kill 2 things. Kind of nice. Lava Spur Boots is not really what I wanted to draw here. Probably not even going to bother equipping them yet. So I think what I'm going to do is I can Surveil Land end of turn and then probably just discard one of these Overgrown Tombs. They have another Nadu? Okay. Now, if you got one, you got 2. I feel like that's how it usually goes against Nadu. Urza Saga is interesting. I mean, I think I probably have to keep it. It's not that great right now, but I mean, if I can get some big constructs going, and then Because I might as well equip here. If I can get some constructs, then I can start attacking with boots, get a shadow spear, start gaining life. Wall of Roots. Then Cord for 3. Yeah, looks like it's gonna be probably game here. Wow, I already hit a Spring Heart Nantuko. And another land. Alright. That's usually where I pack it up. They can play the Nantuko. They still have on board 5 more triggers. And then that's not even counting, they just hit an Nantuko, so that's 2 more plus a bunch of, or obviously any land that they draw. So, yeah, we're moving on to the next game. Now let's see, do I want to change the sideboarding at all? Might bring in, I could bring in Thoughtseizes. Yeah, maybe trim the rumbles for Thoughtseizes. Do something like that. Okay, have a force. Other than that, the hand isn't too great. But I think it's worth keeping, and I think I'm just gonna go for a Surveil Land turn 1. I mean, Cookbook doesn't really do anything right now. I really need to draw or to find an Asmo, and obviously, Surveil Land is going to be really the only way to do that in this hand. All right, Delighted Halfling. Let's see what I could find. Find a Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize is probably pretty good here. I can maybe stop them from casting an Adu at all. Okay, Haywire Might, Teferi, Wall of Roots. This is interesting. I mean, Haywire Might is definitely good against this deck. But I think I'd probably just taking Teferi here. And then I guess I'm just passing. I don't really want to play out the Cookbook into the Haywire Might. And then, oh, they drew Urza Saga. That's kind of brutal. But yeah, my plan is I'm gonna ping the Might with Orcish Bowmasters. Don't really want to cast a Force of Despair there. Okay, well, Saga's pretty decent top deck here. Kill the Might. And Might being in the graveyard is actually, oops, almost clicked through playing this Cookbook. Might as well just do this now. Get the Daredevil back. Yeah, getting the Might in the graveyard is kind of big because I can Kaldra to get it out, or to get that ability, and then I can get their Saga. They will be able to make 1 construct, but it should just be a 1/1. Not too scary. So yeah, let's go ahead and do this now. And then I'm gonna steal a Haywire Mite. I'm gonna put the counter on the Bowmaster. It's gonna be sacrificing the army here. Get rid of the Saga. My opponent is empty-handed currently. Obviously, you know, they've got a lot of ways to draw into Nadu. So not out of the woods by any stretch, but oh, my opponent just scooped it up. I guess from my view of the board state, I didn't really see. I mean, it looked pretty even to me, but I guess they're looking at the Haywire Mite, and I'm assuming they must have drawn a dud. Yeah, it really wasn't drawing anything good. But I guess the 3 turns, the Asmo maybe. But hey, my opponent gives up the win, and I will take it. So ended up with the 3-2. Get a treasure chest out of that. Let's see what we can pull here. Looks like a whole lot of nothing to me. But 3-2 with this list, I think it's got a lot of powerful potential. I could definitely see, you know, with a little bit more playtesting, seeing some of these oddly numbered cards get ironed out. Like there's 3 Grist, 3 Viper, 3 Overseer, 2 Cauldron. I could definitely see those numbers going up or down, or like maybe one of these plans getting trimmed so that it's a little, the deck is a little bit more streamlined. I think right now that's kind of the biggest hurdle. It's like it can be very powerful, but it's a little bit slow and it's a little bit not streamlined. So I think that would be where I would look to take this deck next, is maybe get a little bit faster to try to get underneath some of those decks that like the Storm deck or the Nadu deck that we played against. Try to get a little bit of a faster board presence against those decks, and then try to get it a little more streamlined so you still have that good late game to curve into. But I think this is a really good showing, particularly for the Viper. Bone Cash Overseer, I think that league wasn't too great. I think it definitely had its moments, but the Viper I really loved. I would really like to play more of this card. I think it could definitely make an impact here. And yeah, let me know what you thought of this deck. If you have any changes that you would make if you were going to play it, and I'll see everybody next time.